In every woman's life, there are encounters that cannot be planned in advance or predict. Everything is going on as usual, familiar, calm, even a little predictable. But suddenly, a person appears who seems to disrupt the established order. His appearance seems random, but an inner feeling tells the opposite, as if he hadn't simply entered her life, but had been coming for a long time. Such encounters cannot be explained by logic alone. Sometimes they evoke joy and ease, sometimes anxiety and uncertainty, but in any case, remains a strange feeling. It wasn't just an acquaintance, it was something more, as if it was brought by something invisible that stands above the circumstances. Carl Jung said that the unconscious has a much more active influence on our choices than we are willing to admit, and it is especially strong in the sphere of relationships. The way a woman feels about a man, how she responds to him, how she suddenly lets him into her life. All this is not the result of logic. It is an internal process that occurs long before the meeting. And if we look more closely, it becomes clear. The man who appeared in her life is not an accident. It is a response, a reflection, a message that the time has come to face. When a woman feels that a man has not come into her life by chance, this feeling is usually deeper than she is willing to admit. It is not always associated with love at first sight. It is not necessarily accompanied by euphoria, but something freezes inside her, as if his appearance touched a chord that no one has touched for a long time. And this is where logic, according to Jung, begins. The one who came. What appears from the outside is always a reflection of what lives within. Carl Jung spoke of the unconscious not as something distant and abstract, but as a reality that shapes every choice we make, especially in relationships. According to him, a man who awakens strong feelings in a woman isn't just him, it's her inner energy, activated through him. This is her shadow, her unconscious desires, her forgotten fears, everything that had been dormant until he appeared. You meet your destiny on the road you tried to take her to avoid, Jung wrote, and often this fate comes in the form of a man to whom a woman is drawn by an incomprehensible force. He may be completely not her type, he may irritate her, provoke internal rebellion, or not fit in her scenarios, but it is precisely this that evokes an emotional response that is impossible to ignore. And this is a sign that the unconscious has sent a signal. It's time to meet yourself. Essentially, every man who enters an emotionally significant zone of a woman's life brings her something important. He doesn't just come. He comes to reflect her state, to reveal what she cannot yet directly perceive, to be the mirror in which she may see her true self for the first time. This is precisely why such encounters should not be taken superficially. If a man came on time, meet the wrong time, meet the call of her soul. And no matter how much she tries to explain it to herself logically, there will be only one explanation. He is a messenger of the unconscious. And therefore, the next question to ask yourself is what exactly he activates within her. The answer to this is found in the Jungian archetype of the animus, the inner male image that resides within every woman's soul. If a man is a messenger of the unconscious, then he brings with him more than just feelings and reactions. He activates something much deeper within a woman, something that Jung called the animus archetype. It's not just an internal image of a man, it's a whole system of ideas, emotions, projections, and expectations that are formed from childhood through the father, culture, books, religion, experience, fears, and dreams. Jung argued that every woman has this hidden male image within her psyche, a kind of inner man. He can be a mentor, a critic, a hero, a savior, a tormentor. It all depends on the experiences and images a woman absorbed while growing up. And it is this inner man, the animus, that becomes the filter through which she perceives real men. The animus is not just a male image, it is logic, a principle, an idea, a voice that speaks in the name of truth, but often turns out to be just a projection, Jung wrote. When a woman meets a man who begins to occupy a significant place in her inner space, she often falls in love not with him, but with your own unconscious idea of him. In the way he speaks, the way he holds himself, the way he looks, she recognizes something deeply familiar, almost archetypal, as if this man was meant to be. And not because he is perfect, but because he combines traits that activated her the internal animus. This is especially true in relationships where there is dependence, admiration, or a desire for approval. A woman may not notice that she is responding not to the man himself, but to the voice within that has long been telling her to seek just such a man. This voice can be stern, like a father, or inspiring, like a hero from a book, or oppressive, like past experience. And if a woman is unaware of the animus's actions, it can dominate her herself. She will begin to seek a relationship not with a living person, but with an image. She will suffer if the real man does not match the one living in her imagination, and, conversely, she will be lost if he suddenly begins to destroy her illusions. But this is precisely the key to awakening, because a man who does not come by chance does not come to meet her expectations. He comes to activate the movement of the soul within her, and above all, to show her with what inner image she identifies. And this means that the next important point of understanding is how a man helps her meet her own shadow. When the inner image of the animus awakened, a woman begins to see in a man not only who he is, but also who he could be for her, in her imagination, in her needs, in her memories. But if everything ended there, the relationship would be just an emotional game. However, as emphasized Jung, in cases where a meeting is truly fateful, the man brings with him something far more troubling and profound. He helps the woman confront her shadow. According to Jung, the shadow is everything that is repressed from consciousness, everything a person denies in themselves, doesn't want to acknowledge, or considers unacceptable. And in a woman's life, the shadow is often associated with strength, anger, sexuality, ambition, egoism, and flamboyance. These are precisely the qualities that society has called the shadow for centuries. Unfeminine, she may begin to push away, ignore, hide behind a mask of kindness, compliance, or selflessness. Within every person there is everything he does not want to know about himself, and everything he does not want to know lives in his shadow, wrote Jung. And then a man appears. He is harsh or egocentric or unavailable or, on the contrary, too free, too strong, too inexplicably attractive. He irritates and attracts at the same time. He disrupts the internal coordinate system in which the woman felt right because he activates that partner which she has rejected within herself. And the stronger this inner shadow, the more vivid the projection will be. A woman may believe that he is dangerous, harmful, rude, but in reality, he simply reflects the qualities that she did not dare to acknowledge in herself. Through him, she encounters her own shadow, not as an enemy, but as a part that needs to be integrated. And then a man ceases to be just a man. He becomes a mirror, not to be with her forever, but so that by encountering him, she will see for the first time the part of herself that she has long hidden and perhaps even feared. And this leads us to the next, even deeper level of understanding. A man comes not only as a reflection, he comes as a mirror of the internal conflict that a woman has long carried within herself and could not resolve. When a woman encounters her own shadow through a relationship, it is rarely gentle or a pleasant process. Usually, it is at this moment that an internal conflict emerges, one that has long lived silently within her, but now, thanks to a man, begins to speak loudly. It can manifest itself as anxiety, hesitation, painful attraction, attempts to escape, and simultaneously the inability to let go. And the stronger the connection, the deeper the hidden tension. That's why Carl Jung called such relationships not just events, but encounters with oneself. A woman may be confident that she knows what she wants: stability, understanding, love, equality. But suddenly, she is drawn to someone who destroys all these landmarks, who doesn't promise security, who is unpredictable, or who, on the contrary, is too cold, too suspended. And this attraction to him reveals not romance, but an internal paradox. One part of a woman seeks love, and the other, fear, drama, pain. One part wants to be accepted, the other, to prove that it is impossible to truly love. Until the internal conflict is recognized, a person unconsciously seeks its reflection in the external world, said Jung. A man with whom a woman inexplicably falls in love often embodies the contradictions that live in her psyche. She may strive for freedom, but unconsciously choose someone who limits her or fear loneliness, but reach for the unattainable, or dream of tenderness, but become attached to someone emotionally cold. All this is not stupidity or weakness, it is a strategy of the soul, which uses relationships as a way to reveal what has long needed healing. And at this moment, a man becomes more than just an object of love or suffering. He becomes a battlefield between her desires, fears, traumas, and hopes. He is a mirror in which she sees how her inner yes argues with her inner no, how the voice of the heart battles with the voice of memory, how reason yields to instinct. He shows her that there is no single answer within herself, and that the key is not in him, but in how she learns to hear herself through this internal cacophony. And this brings us to the next important conclusion. A man who comes into her life for a reason does not always come to console. Much more often, he comes for a lesson, not for comfort, but for growth. When a woman realizes that a man reflects her inner conflict, a bitter but liberating understanding comes. He was given to her not to make everything easy, not to make her happy, protected, and calm. He appeared as a challenge, as a catalyst, as someone who would make her see everything she had been running from within herself, in the past, in relationships. It is precisely such men, according to Jung, who bring not consolation, but a lesson. And the more important this meeting is for the soul, the more often it experiences pain. Fate gives us not what we want, but what is necessary for growth, wrote Jung. Sometimes this man comes in the form of love that crumbles, sometimes in the form of passion that does not become secure, sometimes in the form of a relationship that drags down rather than uplifts. And this is not a mistake. This does not mean the woman chose the wrong one. It means that through this man, the soul volunteered to learn one of its most important lessons, to learn to distinguish the need for love from dependence, to understand where the dream ends and the illusion begins, to see that not everyone who comes with strong feelings is destined for the long journey. A man who does not come by chance can destroy all plans, self-esteem, inner stability. But it is precisely through this destruction that a woman most often begins to rebuild herself. He brings out her weaknesses, makes her feel her boundaries, and activates questions she has long avoided answering. He may leave suddenly, cruelly, definitively, and she may feel as if this is the end. But with this end, a completely different woman begins, because the lesson she learned remains. Her new self remains, stronger, more conscious, more alive. If before she sought solace in a man, now she knows that the main purpose of such encounters is not to give her peace, but to awaken her soul. The next step on this path is to understand that truly faithful men never leave a woman the same. They come to destroy the old personality and initiate a transformation that cannot be reversed. When a woman goes through the pain caused by not accidental meeting, she gradually begins to notice that something has changed in her. It's not just sadness or hardship, but as if something old has disappeared inside her. Old answers no longer work, familiar roles no longer warm her, and even dreams that once seemed important suddenly lose their power. This isn't depression, it's the process of internal destruction of the old personality. And this is how, according to Jung, real transformation begins. We do not become enlightened, we imagine the light and we become such by realizing our shadow, he wrote. Such an encounter does not leave a woman the same as she was before. It breaks her self-perception, her value system, her worldview. The man who came into her life as a challenge, as a shadow, as a mirror image of her inner pain, leaves, leaving a void behind. And in this void, the woman remains alone with yourself, with your voice, with your truth, without embellishments, without masks, without scripts. This is the moment when the old construct collapses. I am the one who deserves love. I am the one who does everything right. I am the one who will be saved. These images no longer withstand the clash with reality. The man who failed to live up to expectations did not give less. He gave exactly as much as was needed for these illusions to die. And although it is painful, it is through this dying that freedom is born. A woman begins to ask different questions, not, why doesn't he love me? But what am I really looking for in a relationship? Not, how to keep him, but why am I afraid to be alone? Not what's wrong with me, but where have I betrayed myself to be convenient? Jung believed that fateful encounters do not come so that everything will be fine. They come for the soul to awaken, so that a woman can for the first time sense her true, whole essence beneath all the layers of fear, pain, and hope. And it is from this point that true maturity begins. And so, with every destruction, that which is indestructible draws nearer. Her truly living inner woman, one who no longer seeks from the outside what has long been ready to be born from within. But for this to happen, she must see. The man who came into her life didn't just happen to be there. She herself, with her soul, unconsciously called him. When a woman remains alone with myself after a fateful meeting, inside her, a new ability to see not only what happened, but also how it happened gradually emerges. A quiet, almost frightening awareness arises. He didn't just appear, he didn't come by chance. It was as if he responded to her inner call, even if she didn't utter that call out loud. Jung argued that the unconscious is always active. It works even when the conscious mind is asleep, distracted, preoccupied with everyday life. And it is from the unconscious that deep attractions are formed. A woman may not be aware of what exactly she wants for a long time, but inside her tension, anticipation, longing, fantasy, image, pain accumulate. And all this adds up to a powerful invisible message, an energetic challenge addressed to the man who will match with this internal scenario. What you seek is also seeking you. But you will find it not when you are outwardly ready, but when your soul is ready, Jung might have said, speaking of projections and fateful encounters. And indeed, a woman may attract not the one she consciously needs, but the one who responds to her unconscious structure. She can be sure that she wants reliable, a mature, stable man. But someone will appear who will violate boundaries, make her suffer, and exacerbate the inner emptiness. Why? Because deeper than all these desires is the desire to acknowledge the pain that needed to be seen. And the soul called not for a comforter, but for someone who would activate an old wound. This does not mean that a woman is to blame for her encounters. It means that there is much more living within her than she thinks, and that the inner is always stronger than the outer. She can pray for love and will receive a man who will shatter her perception of it. She can dream of peace and will meet someone who will lead her in a storm. But this is not a mistake. It is a response. The man who came into her life is the answer to her spiritual process, not a desire from the head, but a movement from the depths. And when she begins to understand this, the feeling of powerlessness disappears, because then it becomes clear that she is not a victim of chance. She is a participant in a great inner drama in which everything that happens has meaning. And perhaps at some point, she will understand that he did not stay because he should not have stayed. He came to show her the way to herself. And this reveals the final, crucial understanding. After such a man leaves, a woman for the first time becomes someone she truly needs herself. Sometimes we understand too late why people come into our lives, especially those who leave behind not warmth, but a storm. Those who did not stay, those who destroyed, those who turned everything upside down and then disappeared. But when the initial shock passes, another, deeper feeling arrives, as if all this was necessary. Not because it was pleasant, but because otherwise the soul would not have awakened. Jung taught us to see in every important person not just a figure from the external world, but part of an inner journey. The man who appeared suddenly, who stirred a storm of emotions, shattered expectations, disturbed peace, was no random passerby. He was the link between the woman she had been and the woman she would be. He was the one she unconsciously called upon to finally meet herself. Through him, she saw what she had hidden within herself, felt what she hadn't allowed herself to feel, realized the strength she had hidden. And by losing him, she regained what was most important, herself. We don't become whole by avoiding pain. We become whole by going through it, wrote Jung. Every man who left a mark on the soul was not accidental, even if nothing worked out, even if everything ended, even if everything collapsed, because with his appearance, what truly matters began. Awakening, growth, the journey home. And if they ever meet again, let the woman not ask why he came. Let her ask what in her called him. Because it is precisely this question leads to a conscious life. And a conscious life is the only thing that truly makes sense